Hey, welcome back. We're in Taanis, and we're going to be doing Daf Hey. You definitely want to stick around for the second Amud. Very, very applicable, and there's going to be several insights as I'm going to be adding several Chidushim. Also, it should be pointed out that this is going to be very fast because it was requested that these Dafim should be done in under 30 minutes. Here we go. Says the Mishnah, "Matai sholim esek Hashem," until when do we ask for the rain? Rabbi Yehuda Omer Shavar Pesach, Rabbi Meir Omer Sheitz, and Nisan Shneimar Yod Lechem Geshem Morisha Malkush Barishon. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's until Pesach passes. According to Rabbi Meir, it's until Nisan passes and ends. As the pasuk says that it's going to come down for you. Rain Mora is refers to early, Malkush is late. Berishon on the first month. This is referring to Nisan. Amar le Rav Nachman, Rav Nachman told Rabbi Yitzchak. It was going to be the theme throughout the entire daf conversations between Rav Nachman and Rabbi Yitzchak. Yoreh ben Nisan. Yoreh, which refers to the early rain, is referring to Nisan. Is it really a Nisan? Says the Gemara. Who? There's the Bach adds. Is it really a Nisan? Yor b'mar cheshvan. Who? Yor really happens in Mar Cheshvan. The Tanan or the Tanya is the gears to change. There's some change the text because the Brisa says or Mishnah Yor b'mar cheshvan malkush b'Nisan. So which one is it? Amar leis or Yitzchak Sebech come Rabbi Yochanan. This is what Rabbi Yochanan says. B'mei Yoel bein pusil in this kind mikrazeh in the time of Yoel bein pusil. This pasuk was fulfilled. The pasuk says is chibei yeser hagezim. There's going to be more herbs. Achala arba that the locust is going to eat. Oiso shana says the Gemara that year, seventh year for the famine. Yitzhar Adavilo Yargisham. And the other went out and there was still no rain. Yard lahem review rishoina. So then there was the second rain period over there. Revi Rishon, the first rain period, rather, excuse me. Be'echad b'Nisan, on the first of Nisan, Amar lahem Navi Yisrael, the prophet told the Jews, Su'u v'zeru, go out and plant. Amar lo, they said, Mi sheyesh lo kav, someone who has a kav, which is a measurement of chitim, of wheat, o kabayim sa'oirim, or has two kav worth of barley, Yochanan v'yechin or zen v'yama, should he eat it and then live, or should he plant it and die? Which one should he do? Because he's going to die before he gets a chance to grow, Rashi explains, and he won't have what to eat, and he'll die of starvation. Amar lahem, he told them, Afal pikin su'uvazaru, even so, go and plant. So then there's a text change over here. Yotzu v'zaru v'nasu lahem neis. They went out, they planted, and then a miracle occurred. V'nskal lahem mashvi kosei mashvi churim alim. And it was revealed to them that which was there was like hidden food or something in their wall, or that which was in the ant holes. Those ants, they store a lot of food. Yotzu v'zoru, they went out and they planted Sheni b'shlishi v'revi, the second, third, and fourth day of Nisan. The Ardulahem Revio Shnia. So then it went down for them on they had the second rain period. Bechamisha Benisan on the fifth of Nisan. Hekriv Omer Beshisha Asar Benisan. Then they brought the Korban Omer on the 16th of Nisan. Nimsas Tivua Hegdilo Beshisha Chadashim Gidl Be'echad Asar Yom. So it comes out that the wheat, which usually takes 6 months to grow, miraculously grew Be'echad Asar Yom, only in a mere 11 days. So it comes out, consequently, we find that the Omer, the Korban Omer, which is typically brought from produce over a 6 month period, was actually brought for 11 days. On that generation, the pasuk says, "Hazorim bedima," those who plant with tears. We say shir malos. Berina yachzor, with joy they're going to harvest. Haloch yelechu bacha, they're going and crying. Noise meshech hazara, and they are carrying a container. My halach yechu bacha noise meshech. What does this mean? Amar Rabbi Yehuda, shor kishehu chayreish haluchu baicha. An ox, when it plows, it goes and it cries. Ubi chazirisa, but when it returns from the plowing, oichel chaziz minat alayim. So then it already eats small grass from the furrows. V'zehu yavo birina, and that's what the pasuk means. My noise aluma. So what does it mean? Noise aluma. Some are rechizar. My teacher rechizar said. Some say it was a brisa. Tani, he said that year, there's some add in the text, kana zetis. If you had over here, the kana is the top part of wheat, aka the straw. So that you had over there, it was the measure of a zeres, of a pinky. Shibola zeresayim, whereas the lower part of of the stalk, aka the kernel, that was the size of two pinkies. Amar lei, Reb Nachman told Reb Yitzchak, another statement, another conversation they're having together. Reb Nachman told Reb Yitzchak, "My dechtiv, what does the pasuk mean when it says Ki kara Hashem l'rav v'gam ba'al ha'aretz shev hashanim?" Banach Shavashanim my achlu for 7 years. What did they eat? Amar lay. So Rav Yitzchak responded, Hacham Rabbi Yochanan is what Rabbi Yochanan said. Shana Rishoina achlu ma shebebatim. First year they ate the extra food they had in their house. Shniya during the second year achlu ma shebesadis they ate that which was in their fields. Shlishis for the third year. So then, Basar Behemoth, they ate the meat from animals that were pure. Revius, Basar Behemoth on the fourth year, they ate from the meat from animals that were impure. Chamishas, Basar Shechatzim Ramashim, on the fifth year, they ate this flesh, skin from creepy crawlers, from bugs. Some of the people did this, the Marsha explains. Shishis, on the sixth year, Basar Beneim Ben Oseim, they ate even the meat from their own children. Shviyas basar zerosayim, and on the seventh year they ate from their own meat from their own arms. Remember, it was so that they wouldn't die and starve to death. L'kayim hashnemer ish basar zero yochel, to fulfill the pasuk that said the person's going to eat his own flesh. Now, there's a whole marsha over here and says that he didn't actually eat the flesh over there. If you take a look at what the marsha says, you turn to the back. The marsha says, and I quote on this line, it says, Tevade kama mehem, teloi ba'uli de kach, ve'afilu b'soif sheva shonim hayla maksas la'oichel, etc. In other words, it was some of them who did this, right? Some of them, not all of them over here. Okay, just what to look into more on this. This is pretty intense. Amar Le Rav Nachman Yitzchok and Rav Nachman told Rav Yitzchak, "My dechtiv." What does the pasuk mean when it says "Bikarecha Kadosh v'lo yavo b'ir"? Mishum Bikarecha Kadosh v'lo yavo b'ir, because your cattle is holy, so now you're not going to go to sin. Amar Le Hacham Rabbi Yochanan. He said back this where Rabbi Yochanan says, "Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu." Hashem says, "Over Yerushalayim Shemala, Hashem Yerushalayim Shemata." I'm not going to come to the Yerushalayim above in the heavenly celestial spheres until I come to the Yerushalayim, to the Jerusalem down below. Umik Yerushalayim Lamala, is there a Jerusalem above? And yes, because as the pasuk says, Yerushalayim habenuya ki'ir shechorava lo yachtov. So that's how you know. Amar le Renachmin le Yosef Ram said, "Remit my dechtiv ubachas u yevaru v'yiksul musar havala meitu." What does that pasuk mean? Amar le, so Rabbi Yitzchak responded back, Chacham Rabbi Yochanan, this Rabbi Yochanan says, "Achas hi shemivaedes rishoyim v'gehenim." There's one thing that burns the wicked people in Gehenna Mahi, what is it? Avodas or idolatry. Ksiv also, the pasuk says over here, Musar Havala Meitu, Ksiv Hasam, and it says over there, Havalema Maisetutum, delusions. Vamar Lay, Rav Nachman, Rav Yitzchak, Rav Nachman said, Rav Yitzchak, my Ksiv Kishtayim, you know, it's also Ami, that there were two beds that my nation did. Tartan who was two, Dahavi Yasin, Varba Shavikilahu. So now you're left with 24, which means what do you mean it was 24 over here? Rashi explains that in Yechezkel it says there were 24 averas that they transgressed, 24 sins that they transgressed, or that they violated the 24 svardim in Tanakh. So the Gemara says back, Rav Yitzchak says, Amar Lei, he responded, Rav Yitzchak said back, Ochiyam Rabbi Yochanan, this Rabbi Yochanan says, Akasi, there is one Shekula Kishtayim that is equivalent to two. Amayininu, what is that? Avodah Zarah, it's idolatry. Techsiv is the pasuk says, Kishtayim Ros also Ami. There were two beds that my nation did. Oisi Ozvu, they left me. Makor Mayim Chaim, the source of the living life. Lachsov Lahen Baros, in order to dig wells. Baros Nishbaros which were broken. Uksibu, and it says by them Ki Avdu Kisim, that they were serving on the islands over there. They worshipped Ro V'Kadar, and they saw Kadar. These are nations. Ksim Kadar, these are nations. Shalchu V'Zvaininu, they sent, and then they contemplated mode very much so. And the Gemara then continues and says, "Ahimir goy." This is actually part of the pasuk. Ahimir goy Eloikim v'hema Eloi Eloikim. Ahimir, yeah, they exchanged one god, and are they not really a god? V'ami himir, but my nation they exchanged. Kevoidoi below yoel, its glory without any avail. So what does this mean? Says the Gemara, Tanya Kusim Oiv did leish, the Kusim, so then they worship fire. The Kedarim of the Mayim, and the Kedarim people they worshipped water. Vafalpi yoidim shamayim mekavenes eish, and even though that they would know that the water could extinguish fire, still they didn't exchange their deity. Lo himiru elo hey, they stuck with their God. Va'ami, but my nation himir kevoidi below yo. They just exchanged my glory or his glory, its glory without even a veil. V'amar lei, Rav Nachman, Rav Nachman told Rav Yitzchak, my dichtiv, what does the pasuk mean when it says, here's when things start getting interesting. Vayhi kasher zakin Shmuel. It was that Shmuel was older. Umi Siv, and did he age? Siv means age. Age. Umi Siv Shmuel Kulihai. Did Shmuel really age this much? Vaho Bar Nun Beis Havi. He was only a mere 52 years. Tamar Mar, because we know Meis Benun Beis Shono Zehu Misoso Shoshmir Rasi. If you're gonna die by the age of 52, that is considered the death of Shmuel. See the Gemara in Moekat and Kaf Chesam and Aleph for more details. Amar Le Rav Yitzchak responded, Hachi Amar Rabbi Yochanan. This is what Rabbi Yochanan says. Zikna Kavsa Allah, old age jumped on him. Tichsiv, he got older quick, as the pasuk says. Nechmasi ki amlachti yashalo. I regret that I made Shaul king. Amar lafana of Rabbeinu Shalom. So he said in front of him, Hashem, Shikaltani ke Moshe va'Aaron. You equated me with Moshe and Aaron. This is Shmuel doing the talking over here. This is Shmuel doing the talking over here, and he's telling Hashem, Hashem, you equated me with those two tzaddikim. You equated me with Moshe and Aaron. Dechsiv, as the pasuk says, Moshe v'Aaron b'koyan avu Shmuel b'korei shemot. It's a pasuk by Lichadoidi in the Karbach between Moshe v'Aaron b'koyan avu Shmuel b'korei b'amud anan yidaber. Comes from this pasuk. So you have Moshe over here, Moshe v'Aaron b'koyan av v'Shmuel b'korei shemot. Ma Moshe v'Aaron lo batlu ma'isa yedayim b'chayayim afani lo yizbatel ma'isa yodi b'chayayim. Just like this is called the Mamatzinu, just like Moshe and Aaron, it wasn't nullified the actions of their hands while they were alive, so too it shouldn't be nullified the actions of my hand when I'm alive. What is this referring to? We're going to come back to what it means, the actions of the hands of Moshe and Aaron. Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu Heichi Avid. Hashem said, what could I do? Limo Shaul, if I'm going to kill Shaul, lo Ikoshavik Shmuel. Shmuel is allowing me. He's saying, okay, the actions of my hands can't be null and void, just like by Moshe and Aaron. Limo Shmuel, if I'm going to kill Shmuel earlier, the Zuta Merani Abasrei. Since he's so young, so then people are going to start talking about him over here. Lo limu Shaul velo limu Shmuel. If I'm not going to kill Shaul or Shmuel, guess what? You got a problem there as well. Kvar Yigid Malchus David. It already reached the time when David HaMelech is supposed to be ruling as king. Ben Malchus Noigas bechaverta afilu k'mol l'neima. And the kingship cannot touch its friend even by a hair's breadth. It's not time yet. Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu Akpitza Lov Zikna. Hashem said, therefore I'm going to cause him to get older sooner. Hainu dechtiv, that's what the pasuk means when it states, V'shol Yoishe begivas tachas ha'eshel berama. And ask the Gemara, V'chima inyan givas asal Rama, what is the matter of the giva by Rama? AKA, giva has to do with the inheritance of the tribe of Binyamin, whereas Rama is Ephraim, and they're different tribes. So what is the connection and the explanation of the juxtaposition between these two? Rather, it's coming to tell you, Mi Garam Lashal Sheyeshe Begiva Shtei Shanim Umechsa, who caused Shaul to sit in Giva for a duration of 2.5 years. Tfilaso Shmuel Ramasi. It is the prayers of Shmuel. Umi Midchi Gavrim Mekaimi Gavrim. Could we push off one person because of another over here? We're gonna push off Shmuel over here, cause him to age earlier because of David, as Rashi explains. So the Gemara says, and yes, we will. The Omar Rabbi Shmuel bar Nechmani, Omar Rabbi Yonasan. Rabbi Shmuel bar Nechmani said in the name of Rabbi Yonasan. My Dechstiv, what does the pasuk mean when it says, Al King Chasafti ben Avim Harakti ben Ripi, therefore I have chasavti, means I made my words clear cut with the prophets, and I killed them with my mouth. We see from there that one person could be pushed off from another person. Taisvos over here says that Shmuel lived 23 years. He goes through a whole calculation. That's the long Taisvos. Rashi and Dibor Hamaskul Maisi Adam says Yeshua. The act of Moshe and Aaron are Yeshua. Yeshua was their student. However, it should be pointed out that the Marsha says that it's El Azar, that he was made the Kohen Gadol through Moshe and Aaron, And the Ben Yehoyada, the Ben Ish Chai is Ben Yehoyada, says that it's actually referring to the Mon and the Ananya Kavod, the clouds of glory that they lasted throughout the lifetime. That is this section over here, very interesting over here. Continues the Gemara, and this is a very, very interesting Gemara over here. This and the next one in particular, one of my favorite. These are my favorites. Rav Nachman and Rav Yitzchok, Havi Yosfu Besudas. Rav Nachman and Yitzchok that they were sitting together at a meal. Omar later Rav Nachman and Rav Yitzchok. Rav Nachman told Rav Yitzchok, Lema Mar Milsa, say some Dvar Torah. Omar lei Hachi Amar Rabbi Yochanan. This is where Rabbi Yochanan says, Ein Masichim Besuda Shem Yaktim Kana Leveshed V'Yavoli Disakani. He said, you want me to say Dvar Torah? I'll tell you Dvar Torah. You don't Ein Masichim. We don't converse during a Suda during a meal. Shem Yaktim Kana Leveshed. You might choke. It might go down the kana, the windpipe, before the esophagus, and that would be a problem. Will cause you to choke. Kana, and you will come to a danger. It should be pointed out that these halachas are brought in Siman Kuf Ayin explicitly in Shulchan Aruch. It should be pointed out. Mishnah Berurah doesn't quote over there. Mishnah Berurah actually says over there this is specifically talking about when you're chewing the food, as opposed to if you're not actually chewing the food. For sure, you're allowed to talk. It should be pointed out that the Shari Tshuva there quotes, if I'm not mistaken, a Drisha. Look, it's right behind me, but we're going to try to get through this as quick as possible. He quotes a Drisha who says that that only applies back then, and they were reclining, and therefore there was really a concern when you were reclining that you were going to choke. Conversely, nowadays that we all eat when we're sitting up, there's no more problem of speaking when you have food in your mouth halachically. Look, it's not good manners to speak when you have food in your mouth, but technically from a halachic perspective, it would be permissible according to that explanation. Take a look at the Ben Yehoyada over here on this Gemara, how he learns this, because he asks, what do you mean, how did Rabbi Yitzchak not know this halacha? It's such an obvious and important and relevant halacha. Rather, it could be that he wasn't sure precisely about this matter, aka the reclining factor, or if you're saying it's Dvar Torah, Shomer mitzvah lil yeder davar. The pasuk in Koheles says someone who's going to keep a mitzvah won't know of something bad, and therefore you're going to be protected. And a few different explanations. Anyways, continuing the Gemara, Basar Disoid, after they finished eating, Omar Lei. So then he said back to him, Rabbi Yitzchok said, Hachiyam Rabbi Yochanan, this Rabbi Yochanan said, Yaakov Avinu lo meis. Fascinating Gemara over here. Yaakov didn't die. Rashi over here learns Elachai Hu La'olam. He lived forever, immortal. Taisvas also says it's implied from a pasuk. It says Vayigva, that it doesn't say Vayamas. He didn't die. We see from over there. The Marshal, however, has another explanation, and he says in the Dibur Maskal V'chi, it's a long Marsha. It's worthwhile to go through the whole thing, but his main point, Tevada Beneshesh Kamri Delomes. We're talking for sure physically he died. We're talking about spiritually his soul always lasted and it still exists. Different explanations. Amar le v'chi b'chedi saftu saftinayo v'chontu chaniti v'kodru kedvayo. What is it for nothing that they did the eulogies, the embalming, and the burial? What do you mean? Amar le mikrani doirish. You responded, I have a pasuk that I could expound on. Shneimar, as the pasuk states, Va'ata al tiru avdi, do not fear my servant Yaakov. Ne'um Hashem, is so is the word from Hashem, Va'al teichas, and don't be fearful Yisrael, which is referring to Yaakov. Ki hineni Moshecha, because behold, I will save you. A salvation over here. Merochok v'tzarecha me'eretz shivyam, from far away, and your children from the land of captivity. Ma'keshul Lazar, we're going to connect Yaakov to his children. Mazar b'chaim afu b'chaim, just like his children are going to be alive, so too he is going to be alive. I'm Rabbi Yitzchak Kolo. Okay, another very fascinating Gemara. Whoever says the name Rachav twice will immediately have a seminal emission. Amar Lei. So the question is, what about right now? We'll come back to that. Amar Lei Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman said, "Oh no, I mean He said, "I said Rachav twice, and it didn't happen to me." Amar Lei responded back, Ki kamina biyodeo makiro. I was referring to when you know her and recognize her. What is this referring to over here? So Rashi over here speaks out. Where are we? Mazaro afu b'chayim kolom erachav rechem v'nikri natsa balkeri lo ichbas li and should be Yodea. Hainu nami makira. Yodea and makira are the same thing. When you know her and recognize her, according to Rashi, is the same thing. Taisvos, the bottom Taisvos on the daf says perush v'yodea shabahale. What does it mean that you know her, that you had relations with her? Umakira, you recognize her. Shiro, so you have to seen her. So this means that you couldn't have had relations blindfolded or have been blind. You have to have been able to actually see her, according to Taisvus, and had relations with her. That's the Taisvus over here. Now, we should point out over here who is Rachav. Rachav was the prostitute who was very, very successful and famous and popular by all high officials, and she had relations for a duration of 40 years when the Jews were in the desert. And then, long story short, and you have to see the recordings on Sefer Yeshua on the Yeshua playlist that we discussed. I'll link it up there. Exactly with Rachav in the second parak in particular, go to. Parak Bays, which is the story with she ended up repenting and married Yoshua ben Nun, the leader of the Jews himself, and they actually gave birth together to descendants who ended up becoming prophets, including Yirmiyah and others. Sefer Yeshua, this is what we have the whole playlist on, and it's very popular. Watch the whole thing to fully understand it. It should also be pointed out, why on earth is this Gemara quoting this? Who cares about this? What's the idea behind it? So there's a few explanations on this. Let's speak out over here what it says in the Shilas and Chuvas Noda Yehuda in Mahaduda Kamen or Chaim Simin Chav Beis, which you also quoted in the Yeshua recordings over there. He says, "What on earth is the point of this Gemara? Especially if you're going to learn about it, you might have improper thoughts." He's coming to tell us. This is coming to tell us how careful we need to be not to look at sites that we're not supposed to be looking at, aka women, even if they're dressed modestly, if it's going to lead to improper thoughts, we need to be very careful and not cause ourselves to become impure. And even if you're not going to see a person, you're just going to think about it, get it out of your head. And that's basically what he says, how careful we need to be. And this for sure teaches us something very important in this regard. And it's especially relevant this point when the weather's getting warmer and hotter and everything. It's noteworthy to point out that the Gilyon Hashas and Megillah Tesvozim and Aleph cites a Tosfos in Sanhedrin and Memei and Aleph and Dibur Amaskal Ella that quotes Rava, who says that we have a tradition in Yitzhahara Shoylid Ela B'mi Shein of Royos, that the evil inclination, the Yitzhahara, will only rule on a person who when your eyes see something, then the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, starts coming in. That's why we need to be very careful what we see, whether in real life or whether on screens. We need to be very careful with this, what we see. Okay, so there's a lot to talk about it, but we got to move over here. Continuing the Gemara, Ki Havi Mifter Miyadadi, when they were departing from one another, Amar Lei, Rav Nachman said, Livarchan man, give a bracha, Amar Lei. So he responded, Rav Yitzchak responded, Em Shlucha Mashal. Let me give you an analogy. Lamahad Avadoma, what is this comparable to? La'odim Shayahilich B'midbar, this is comparable to someone who was going in a desert, V'hayara V'ayef, and he was very hungry and tired, V'sami, and he was thirsty, Umatzu Elon, and then finally, at last, it was an oasis. He found a tree, Shepeiroisev Misukim, that the fruit was very sweet, V'silo and the shade was pleasant, Va'omas Hamayim Oiveres Tachtav, and there was a brook of water, there was a stream of water that was flowing under it, underneath it, downwards. Amazing an oasis. He ate from the delicious fruit and he drank from the water and he sat in the shade. When he wanted to leave, he said, Tree, tree, how can I bless you? If I'm going to bless you that your fruit should be sweet, your fruit already sweet. That your shade should be pleasant. You already have shade that's pleasant. That you should have the stream of water that's flowing under you. You already have that. Ella Yehida Atzon, rather may it be the will of Hashem, Shekol Natio Shenoiti Mimecha, that all growths that should come from you, Yekemoischa, they should be like you, identical. Afata, so to you, Reb Nachman. B'marachecha, how can I bless you? Im betoiro. Hari, if I'm going to bless you with Torah, Hari, you have the Bach that adds Yishlcha Torah, you already have Torah. Ve'im ba'oisher is another text change. And if it's with wealth, hari oisher, you already have wealth. Im ba'bonim, hari bonim. If with bonim, with children, you already have children. Elihira tzoin, shesesecha, ma'echa, kamoska. Rather, it should be the will of Hashem that your descendants will be like you, which means Rashi specifies they're going to have a lot of Torah, a lot of wealth, and a lot of honor, aka also children. That's the idea. Okay, see you in the next one.